advertised it as a public hearing. We just need to
Be on time.
Okay. We ready, Thomas?
All right, you're live. Thank you.
Okay. This time we'll call the called meeting to order. Ms. Scott, can you give us a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mayor Seibold,
He's on the way.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
Present.
Councilman Carson,
Yes.
Councilman Hunter.
He was here.
He's here.
Yes.
Councilman Tucker.
Present.
Okay. Due to the COVID-19 coronavirus health emergency and pursuant to chapters 1283 of the 2020 Acts of Assembly, the Covington City Council will convene electronically to transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue the operations of the city. The public is encouraged to participate in the public meetings by sending any comments they may have to Rebecca Scott, Clerk of City Council, and this is open on the Zoom platform. We're conducting this meeting this evening to solicit input on local community development and housing needs in relation to the Community Development Block Grant funding for a project for Jackson Street and necessary adjacent areas. Information on the amount of funding available, the requirements on benefit to low and moderate income persons, eligible activities, and plans to minimize displacement and provide displacement assistance as necessary will be available. I see that the mayor is here, and I'll turn this over to him.
You're doing a good job. Just keep on.
Oh, no, you're doing good. It's all about you, buddy.
Did you read the statement at the beginning?
Yes, I did. You're good to go.
So where are you at?
We just need to call the public hearing open.
Go ahead, call it open then.
At this time, we will call the public hearing open. Ms. Scott, did we get any correspondences through your office?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay, Crystal, do you want to take the lead and start us on this?
Absolutely, Vice Mayor Crozier. I will take the lead for a moment and just kind of tee this up for Mr. Steele, who's provided our engineering and project management on this. The city did provide multiple public notices, did some public service announcements in the last 2 to 3 weeks that were featured in the front page of the paper, within the paper, and we also did a refresher yesterday providing visuals of the planned progress or project as far as its scope. Having said that there is no public input, I would like to provide just a very brief overview for you all beyond the non-technical aspects. As you all know, in my monthly updates, I have tried to provide you all sort of how this grant has evolved based on public comments and feedback from some of the survey door-to-door efforts that we've done in the community. When we went and spoke with those in the community, the number one issue that we received was that drainage impacted quality of life, lack of sidewalks or sidewalk extensions was another barrier to quality of life measures. We chose to focus this community improvement grant. So we've gone through the planning grant phase of the block grant, moving forward to applying for construction dollars to focus on quality of life measures that would benefit all, and seeing that, you know, the impacts that lack of drainage control or lack of adequate drainage has on the fiber of a community with, you know, increased turnover as far as rentals, eroding the value of homes and their assessed value, and property damage. That was one of our primary focuses, as well as, you know, creating a multimodal community area with extending sidewalks and adding some aesthetic enhancements. That being said, if you all don't have any questions from me, because I know I've been providing you monthly updates on this, I will turn it over to Mr. Steele, who will give you all a rundown of the project description, as well as the visuals and cost estimates as well that were in your packets and made available to the public. Any questions?
All right, Stevie.
All right. Thank you, City Manager. So everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so first I want to just go through general project description. This, of course, is, as mentioned earlier, a Department of Housing and Community Development funded project. The planning grant included many of the elements that the city manager mentioned previously, including reaching out to all the residents. After we received all of that and decided what project elements were most important, we developed a preliminary engineering report, which includes the following: 1,200 feet of new sidewalk on both sides of Jackson Street from Byrd, which is where the Durant Road project terminated. So it would seamlessly tie in with that and go out to Lee. This would include new asphalt as well. New pedestrian crosswalks across the north and south portions of Byrd, Stewart, and Lee. These crosswalks will be stamped to create the appearance of brick. And drainage improvements along Jackson, north and south Lee, north and south Stewart, and north and south Byrd. This will include ditch improvements with rock lining, 4 drop inlets to prevent water from running across Jackson, which is what it does now, and construction of 1,600 feet of drainage pipe along the railroad down there in the bottom where the water likes to sit because it can't get under the railroad. We would put 1,600 feet of drainage pipe in that area to fix this problem. So this is the overall project area, and although it may be a little busy, you can see here, is my cursor showing up, Thomas? Right
Mhm.
there. Okay, so this is where the Durant Road project ended. And as you all well know, the sidewalk was extended. They did drainage improvements. They put a ditch in along South Byrd, a little flat, but it's nevertheless there. What we would be doing is improving drainage on Stewart, drainage on Lee, and then these dots you see are the drop inlets that would capture the water that now just runs down the sidewalk. The sidewalk is really the drainage bed on each side of the road. So that sidewalk would be raised up about 4 inches. And what we've done in the city in the past to still allow for vehicular parking and not create expense, we do a monolithic pour on that. So it has a bull nose on the edge, but it doesn't cost as much or near as intrusive from a construction standpoint. That may be way far in the weeds, but I have to get some engineering lingo snuck in there somewhere. So this is the portion of the main drainage. And essentially what we're doing, this is the backbone of what will carry all of the water from North and South Jackson. So this going in is critical because as the drainage is captured along these streets and along Jackson even further down as improvements allow, this pipe catches all of that and keeps it from setting there, and then it goes under the railroad in these strategic locations where there's already pipes under the railroad. Right now, it can't get to those pipes. So in several of these places, as you all well know, there's low points. When that water finally makes its way down to this location, it just sits there. Years ago, there was a French drain system through this entire bottom, and all these property owners maintained that little French drain system. But as time moved on, they weren't maintained anymore, and essentially that system's not there anymore. So this is going to create the backbone for not just this first phase, but as funding or other planning comes about, any of the drainage that's collected in the rest of the area, it has a place to go. So we're dealing with some of these immediate streets, but the project also includes future thought on being able to capture that drainage. So as it's collected, it doesn't just go somewhere and sit in somebody's yard. So that's.
And not to interrupt you, Mr. Steele, but
Yes, ma'am.
one of the things that we've also had discussions with, and Mr. Mayor, I'm sure you've overheard this, it's been a little while, but as we've entered into our consent order as well, there's also an opportunity to leverage and tie in some additional dollars, as you know, this helps alleviate some of the load that our wastewater treatment plant kind of carries as far as water that doesn't effectively filter through the system, as well as, you know, when we're doing some of these drainage improvements, leverage what we may need as far as potentially applying for some DHCD grants that they make available for wastewater treatment plant improvements on the future horizon. Nothing's guaranteed, but trying to put as many irons in the fire as we can.
So is there any questions about the plan view? I've got some renderings and a few other things to show to give a full view of the project details. Any questions about this view and the things that I've talked about from any council members? We can always come back. So I'm going to go to the renderings. So this we put together to give everybody an idea visually. So this is the top view is a rendering of Jackson. So this is the existing light poles with street lights on it. This represents the houses that are right against it. What I wanted to show in this view is the fact that we would be maintaining the 10-foot shoulders, which are there for people to park now, a 4-foot sidewalk on both sides, and 10-foot westbound and eastbound lanes. So with that improvement, essentially we will be extending the work visually. If you want to look at what was done on Durant, that will continue for the next block. So this shows there's got to be parking along that corridor. I think all of you are aware when we've looked at this, there's a lot of places like this in the city. Back in the day when the plant was the only place that people worked, there was one car and that household had one vehicle. Now everybody in the house has a car. So the on-street parking is something that we pay close attention to. This next view represents what would occur with the side streets. And what I wanted to represent here would be the 16-foot roadway being maintained and then the open ditches along each side of the road. And we've done that for two reasons. One, to try to prevent creating more hard space that doesn't allow water to infiltrate through. And that was the city manager's idea, to try to keep things as natural as possible. So we'll be doing lined ditches. At some point those lined ditches will end up being slowly filled in and they'll actually have grass on it. And so that's something that'll be very natural. It'll help slow the water down. This doesn't represent where there are existing driveways that go to the houses. Where that happens, we will actually pipe under those driveways and people will still have access to their existing driveways. So this just represents what each of those different situations look like, to try to give everybody a better idea visually of what the improvements would include. Are there any questions about either of those renderings? Okay. And the last thing that I wanted to present to council, this is what we will plan to include in the application to DHCD. And I just wanted to let everybody know that, this is what the city paid for in the PER. Most of that was grant money, but this breaks down the roadway and sidewalk costs, the stormwater collection costs, soft costs. Got some money in there for Mark. Got some permitting, survey design, inspection, and contingency. So something to keep in mind. I don't want to throw up a red flag. The limit for the funding is $1 million, and it's all grant. And so somebody from council is going to say, well, why, Mr. Steele, are you showing $1,152,100? My target was to maximize that $1 million to the penny. So if you see here contingency, once you back that out, then we are at that $1 million. So essentially I've got the cushion and I have tried to maximize and do everything we can with every penny this clearly could very well change when we get to opening bids if we make it that far. And I get fired if I'm low bidder more than a couple times in my career, so this is a conservative estimate.
And Mr. Steele, if I may, with regards to the construction inspection as well as the contingency cost, one of the things that we are trying to be very careful of as a city with our large-scale project management and other things is making sure that we account for those costs up front. So should there be any issue with a project, or making sure that we catch the issues early on with having a full-time inspector, or if we encounter some infrastructure issues that we've got a cushion, normally 25% is your cushion. What I will say is then that what that will likely require in our budget moving forward this year is us to put in a placeholder should we receive these grant funds for the $152,900. Now, that is something that is up for discussion for you all. But again, that is best practice to always allocate dollars for construction inspection, especially when you're doing a extensive project, as well as making sure you have solid contingency costs.
So I see a $96,000 line item for construction inspection. Stevie, does that cover what Crystal's talking about?
Yes, sir.
And I think we need to make sure that it's clear that this is just the groundwork for a Department of Housing and Community Development grant to actually do the work. And none of this work will be done until the grant's approved. I'm not sure people understand that all the time when we start getting into these discussions. You know, it's how long is this going to take? Well, it's going to take a long time if we don't get the grant, not going to get it done. So
That is correct.
all
Mr.
contingent
Chair.
on the grant.
It would be contingent upon us submitting a completed application in the next 3 to 4 weeks, correct, Mr. Steele?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
April 1st is the tentative deadline for those applications, City Manager.
So with that being said, you know, we then have to go through the review process. There's no guarantee. This is a community improvement grant. This is our plan should we get the grant dollars, what we would do to enhance the community and add value to the community as a whole. I do believe that it is a 6 to 9 month at times review process. It just depends with how competitive some of the other applications are. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns? I mean, we will continue to update you all as a council on this as it progresses or we hear feedback. But I do think it's important to note that should this advance and we get approved for the construction grant dollars for the community improvements, that we will need to have a budgetary discussion just to make sure that we're not going to shortchange ourselves with the dollars that the state may provide.
Okay.
One other thing, Steve, I think there's a wastewater pump station down through there somewhere. Is that right?
Yes, Jackson Street Pump Station. It's down further in this corner.
It's not in the scope of this project.
No, sir. No. And we recently upgraded that pump station in the last sewer pump station upgrade project. So it's been fully rehabilitated and is in preventative maintenance / operations for hopefully quite some time. That pump station should have another 20 years of life now that we've rehabilitated it.
Is there anything else you have to add, Stephen?
No, I think the city manager's explained the application process. The next step would be to submit that, and the process is very competitive. I sit through their workshop each year, and this year is a little bit of a wild card, as it will be with every funding mechanism. They don't know how many people will still be actively pursuing projects of this nature, or if they'll be hunkered down, just trying to barely do the minimum, which could free up some money for cities like Covington, or who are still trying to plow forward and get some things done. So we really won't know until they receive all the applications to see how many folks are trying to get after those grant dollars. I think the last thing I would add, as far as the budget concerned, there is always opportunity to prepare base bid and alternative bid setup so that city has a chance to really kind of shop and spend as much money as they feel like they have the appetite to spend. So what I mean by that is, if the $150,000 is where the buck's going to stop, then as your engineer, I'll design as much project as I can so that I can be very confident that we get a project within the city's preferred budget. And then we can throw in some alternate wish list items. And if they come in under budget too, then you can go with them. If you don't want to expand the overall cost to include those, then you leave them be and go with the base bid. So we can certainly create something that gives you some options if we even make it to that point. Just something to throw out there to curb some of the concern about the overall budget. We're pretty early in the process.
Crystal,
Not
do you have
sound.
anything?
Just wanting us to be very realistic. I know we've had quite a few large-scale projects. I will strongly encourage you all as council to make sure that when we move forward, if we do, with grant dollars or any allocation from the city, that we are conscientious of inspection and contingency dollars.
Yes.
That has been something that we've needed to discuss on some other projects. So again, I think we can value engineer some things, but there's some things that you can't always cut out of a project. You make sure that you have, 18 work.
And I will thank the city manager very much for that support. That is very much music to my ears, especially the inspection piece. So
You didn't have time to do it yourself, Steve?
the inspection,
Yeah.
I would love to come out there and spend every day just watching the project happen. We'll see, Mayor. I'll see if I can make that happen.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
save some money there.
Yeah. I'd like a bologna sandwich at least every day at 12. That would be at least something.
We'll get you one.
All right.
Is that all we have for the public hearing? As far as any questions?
I don't have anything. I'm good. It's very good overview. Thank you, Stevie and Crystal.
I'm good. Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele.
All right, city manager, I'm going to stop sharing now. Is everybody okay with the materials? They need to see anything else?
I am.
I am.
Could you email us, and I just sent you a text, Stevie, could you email us the cost sheet that you had presented? We didn't get that.
Yes, I'll send that on. Crystal, you want me to send that just to you?
Sure.
I don't
just
even-
send it to me and we'll forward it out.
Okay.
I actually have a copy of it, but it'd be quicker instead of me combing through my files. I send it.
And I can send it out like right now if you want me.
If
to
you'd
do
like
that.
to, that would be perfectly fine. Just
That
copy
would
it,
be good.
no issue, and then I'll just get a new fresh copy in my inbox.
All right.
That would be wonderful. Thank you, Stevie.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
All right, city manager, it is all yours.
David, what else? We got anything else to do as far as the public hearings concerned?
That is the end of the public hearing. At this point, we will, if council has no objection, we will close the called meeting. And I guess it's time to turn it over to you for the work session.
All right, we're just ready to move right into that, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
So as we call our regular work session to order, we are able to meet this way due to the COVID-19 coronavirus health emergency and pursuant to Chapter 1283 of the 2020 Act of Assembly. The City of Covington's council will convene electronically and transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue the operations of the city. As always, the public has been encouraged to participate through emails to Ms. Scott, and they can view on the regular Zoom site. So the meeting is called to order. Ms. Scott, I guess we need to take inventory of who's here now. We got more people than we had when we started last meeting.
Mayor Cybold,
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Crozier,
Present.
Mr. Carson,
Here.
Mr. Hunter,
Here.
Mr. Tucker.
Here.
So first thing we have to do is the approval of the agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Scott, were there any citizen comments for us tonight?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First item after that on the agenda is appointments. We need to consider an appointment to the Planning Commission and to consider an appointment representing to the Allegheny Highlands Chamber of Commerce. Wayne Lamb is a seat that's going to be vacated, and he is able to serve one more term. So if anybody has any other nominations, if there's no other nominations, we'll just we'll put that on the agenda for next week and approve Wayne.
That's
Is that
good.
right?
Agenda.
Agenda, yeah, that's good.
The appointment to the Allegheny Highlands Chamber of Commerce, that's the seat that David has held representing the city. Right now, his schedule is difficult for him to make that meeting, but as long as they're meeting by Zoom, I think he can do that. Is that right, David?
Yeah, if we can work it out to where they're still doing Zoom meetings, I can work and Zoom at the same time. This last meeting, I didn't realize that was an option until it was too late, but I can start utilizing that if it's available.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
welcome, because I was the needy one that first asked for that.
Thank you.
But then I had a conflict.
Oh, I thought you were going to represent the city.
No, you went, member.
And I'm
Okay.
available to fill in for David when he can't make that. So if that's okay, we can do that for David.
Agenda.
Okay,
To be on the agenda.
yeah, that's good.
Mr. Popovich, you there?
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
The situation with Mr. Carson has opened up another situation that we have 2 seats we need to fill on commissions and groups. Is that something we could talk about here, or we'd need to do that somewhere else?
Certainly could talk about it here. It was an issue that was brought to my attention by the city manager. I did not realize that Mr. Carson was serving on the housing authority. So I did some research to ensure that his placement on that board was proper. And unfortunately, there's only limited circumstances where members of the governing bodies council or board has authority to sit on other authority boards and councils. And unfortunately, that was not one of them. And so that issue was brought to Mr. Carson's attention. And then also, I believe Mr. Crozier had pointed out that he had completely forgotten about that particular requirement. And so his position on the social services board he will have to vacate that position as well. And so you'll have to appoint someone to that position.
And he is the citizen at large appointment to that group, and I am the representative of city council on that group.
Yeah, you are specifically authorized by the statute to sit there.
Can he and I trade? Can he become the council appointee and I become the person that's not allowed to serve?
if that's for you all to work out, but there can only be one member of council on that particular board.
Yeah, and David's the chairman of that group, and he does a really good job. And I think it would put the whole social service board into a tailspin with him leaving and me staying. I think it'd be better for me to leave and him to stay. So council, that's something we need to discuss, and then we'll have an open seat no matter what we decide on the social service board. That has to be a citizen representative.
And
So
Mark,
we fill
I'm glad,
Lance's seat.
I hate to say it, but I'm glad this thing with Lance came up, because this was something with my seat, me taking it, that I've replaced another council person that was in the citizen seat. And, you know, we really had no idea until this came up that so this has been going on that board for 10 years now. So
At least.
Yeah.
When you find an issue and you just fix it, and that's just the way what we're doing. It's not, it's not going to cause any major issues. It's just, we need to get it right. That's all.
I want council to know that I have contacted the Housing Authority in Waynesboro, have gotten off of the board, and they're going to need a person appointed to as soon as possible.
Yeah. Right.
Lance, I have a
Yeah,
question.
yes.
With that board, Lance, did you have to travel for meetings, or how did that work for you being on that board?
It's local, right in off of city chambers in that office. And then the things that they might have needed, I was chairman, so I had to sign the checks and all that stuff. So, and there are local offices at VEC, so everything's local. You don't have to go to Waynesboro ever.
Okay. That was one of the things I really didn't know the extent of for that board, and looking for somebody else. I'm sure somebody would ask, and I wasn't sure.
It's a lunch meeting and it's only about an hour and that's it.
How often do you all meet?
Once every 3 months.
Once every 3 months. Okay.
You want to get on the board?
So we need to put those two on the agenda.
Yeah.
And,
Citizen representative for the, what was that one? That was
Social
the
services
one you
and
want.
housing.
the Covington Housing and Redevelopment.
Okay, and then we'll also need one for social services. If y'all could be thinking about that this week, we can put that on the agenda for next week. And hopefully we'll have someone to fill that position. City manager, do you have a report for us?
Do you want one? Do you want one, or, I mean, I
Or
can.
do you have it? Yeah, that's where we're at, really. I had my speaker turned down. I couldn't hear you.
Would you like one, or I could skip?
No, go ahead. I'd like to know what's going on.
I would like to apprise you all of several, what I would consider major developments on things that I normally brief you all on. I will start with economic development. First, I will start with, we have a potential housing development opportunity, which you all will hear more about next week. I've been working with Mr. Popovich and Mr. Lockaby on some of the fine details on that, as well as the chairman of our IDA on making sure that we do what we can to be proactive in locking that in as a solid opportunity. It would be very similar to what Vinton did with the William Byrd House, which I'm sure Mr. Tucker is very familiar with.
Yes.
Another thing is with Main Street, that effort is progressing nicely. We now will have standing biweekly meetings with our Main Street consultants, head down strategies, the mayor and Ms. Hammond from the chamber, myself, just making sure that we progress things. That will be every other Monday. We are getting ready to push out a community survey right now. That's gone out to the grant management team for their review and feedback. I think one of the biggest things we provided feedback on was just really trying to focus on not every answer being open-ended and making sure that we differentiate that, you know, we really want Old Town not to just be known as an organization that hosts events, but Old Town Covington then become and morph an actual destination. You know, Old Town Covington is Old Town Covington. The other aspect is we're also working on a building assessment of what is in our downtown and trying to figure out how we can support some efforts underway as well as those that may be in the mix, which you all are aware of in other various one-off discussions as well. With regards to the actual Allegheny Highlands Economic Development Corporation, our pad-ready site development discussions are progressing very rapidly. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with Timmons, Tim Davey, John Lanford, myself, and Lee Downey from Hunton to discuss the recommendations they've made on site size, the cost, etc. We will need to be very candidly discussing the cost. We've also been discussing some finance options with how we can look at grant dollars as well as bank dollars. And if we do borrow money at all for pad ready site, it would be the IDA borrowing the money with the city and county contributing to paying that note in addition to whatever money we borrow. We've had some discussions with some local banks as well as local bank board members on that. We are expecting the final business plans from the consultants for the EDC this coming month, which they should be coming in person as long as we have an in-person meeting to provide us what is actually going to be some tangible action steps of how can we retool the Economic Development Corporation, make it more effective, rebrand it, build on the marketing that the chamber does, and really translate that into what is economic development and growth and retention marketing strategies, as well as pushing that pad ready site piece and some other facets. I will say that I've been very pleased that the board for the Economic Development Corporation has been very receptive and very engaged. So I will commend them for that. I will also say that we've had quite a flurry of activity with the Rayon Bridge and our state of good repair application. Some of you may know that I was scrambling like a mad woman about 2 weeks ago, trying to get someone to give me a Hail Mary pass for a lot of last minute information that the state requested for as a comprehensive application, which is something we've never really gotten to push to provide all of this wonderful reporting material on just what is the true status of the bridge, giving visuals, doing the layout of what a replacement versus rehab would look like. And I will commend Timmons Group for the work that they did in less than 4 days. You all got a copy of that report. Happy to make it available publicly, but that was a great report. It really shed a lot of light on a much needed infrastructure and pressing in its economic development impacts that it has for us here. Budget efforts are progressing. We actually, as you all may know, we sent out our 10-year CIP request as a nice template for staff, examples on trying to build out what is our true need over the next 10 years. So we can start to give you all as council a very realistic picture as best as we can, knowing that this is our first stab at it here locally, of what are our needs right now for what's programmed, what's going to be on the horizon, and then what do we need to look at including additionally that may be some other priorities that you all may or may not have. But that will be coming up, and that will be part of just an overall budgetary discussion so that we can just start to build what is the perceived true needs so we can keep that in the back of our mind. One of the things that we're also starting to look at with that is some basic project management standards and looking at what cost point do we look at repair versus replace? Meaning if I've repaired something 3 times over and the replacement cost is nominal to what the repair is, why am I not looking and having that strategic discussion of replacement? And that may mean at times we shift some stuff in the budget, but I think it's important. Perfect example, the VDOT report we sent to VDOT for Rayon Bridge. They actually have a set standard that if bridge maintenance, major rehab cost is over 60% of major replacement costs, or actually it's 80% rather, then you go ahead and recommend full replacement. Because why would you put something in that, all of those dollars in to something that might only give you 20 years and a new bridge can give you 100 years? So it's just trying to be a little more strategic in, our life cycle analysis of how we do our asset strategy here across the board. That went to every department. It also went to all of our consulting and engineering services, such as CHA, received a copy and communicated. I personally did that I would welcome feedback and input with their expertise in helping us as a city. Moving on, joint services. Exciting update. We are moving to have a regional jail discussion on February 22nd. That would be those that manage the jail here locally, the county, myself, and we'll be meeting with those in Lexington and Rockbridge to kind of have this discussion on looking at housing costs and trying to better rein those in. Also, following up on trying to have the solid waste discussion for joint services as far as how do we move forward with our landfill strategy with Bath County and our surrounding localities. So there should be more to come on that. And lastly, with COVID, our reopening efforts are well underway with some of our first floor renovations. There was a bid advertised in the paper this past weekend. We are well underway with our new lock and key system that will kind of create a first floor customer service area for our citizens in our constitutional offices. And as of Monday, our constitutional offices have been able to resume full staffing due to the availability of vaccines for the 1B subgroup and the reported overall decrease in positivity rate, not case counts, but positivity rate in our immediate area. Any questions on what I covered? I know I did that fast, but that's why I do it, so you don't have questions.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions?
I don't.
I have a question, but it ain't concerning none of that.
All right, throw me your curveball, Mr. Hunter.
Go ahead there.
The Rent Road,
Yes,
did
sir.
they ever get the stuff back from it?
Yes, sir. I have that in my folder and I can give you a little update on that. Essentially, what we found with the pre-scoping activities that were done, it would cost roughly $25,000 to do 10 core drillings, to do a full investigative and engineering analysis of what may or may not, or is not shifting to cause the continued suppressions of the roadways. At this point in time, I would recommend that we would proceed with that. I do think that, it's not an immediate need. We do have our line of credit open until August. So, we can go forward and at least try to prepare a budget and see where that shakes out and see if we still have a comfort level. However, given liability reasons, I think we still do need to continue to keep that ball in play of we're working on doing something and looking at it to develop a strategy. It's better to know, you got to know what you got. And Mr. Steele is here and he can answer any additional questions.
Anybody have any questions for Steve?
Do you need a consensus from us to go ahead and do that, or?
I mean, it'd be nice just, to get a kosher sign off on it.
Yeah.
Is that something we need to add to the agenda next week?
I mean, I think you all could just give me a verbal consensus, as a direction, as a direct report to
Okay.
you all as
Yeah.
city manager, you could give me just your intended direction. Do you want me to proceed with that utilizing the line of credit? Which, Mark and I have, the city attorney and I have discussed the liabilities that, not at least taking the exploratory measures and then trying to develop an action plan, even if it's deferred with funding, presents.
Do you, as far as the money from the other road projects we had, is any of it left?
There's $779,000 and some change left.
And that's the line of credit you're talking about
Yes, sir.
using to do this
There's
project.
a line of credit.
I'm good with going on ahead and doing it. Just my opinion. I'm kind of with you that we need to see what we are dealing with.
I'm all right, we'll go ahead and do it too.
Me too.
I think we all are.
Okie doke. Well, thank you, guys. We'll go ahead and then just proceed with that, because Mr. Steele has his marching orders, so he'll prepare me a task order for that.
All right. Any other questions or comments on the report? So we got some items we need to put on the agenda for next week. First of all, we need to hold another called public hearing on the Jackson Street project next Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, agenda.
And that's at 6 o'clock as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
We're going to hear a presentation from Landmark Development concerning a potential housing project. Everybody wanna hear that?
Yeah, agenda.
We're going to hear a quarterly financial report.
Yeah,
Agenda.
it'd be on there.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yes,
think that
ma'am.
is something that we should discuss in closed session, session this evening, and
Okay.
perhaps continue that to your March meeting.
Okay.
Financial report?
Correct. I just think with COVID and all of the variables that we've been presented, we might want to go ahead and make sure that we have fully done all of the review that's needed of everything so that you all get the best report with regards to expenses and allocations as well as revenue projections.
Okay.
I'd like to get on the agenda for March 2, treasurer's report, please. I'd like the treasurer to come if she could.
Is that all right? Everybody put that on the agenda?
Be fine.
I'm good with it.
Ms. Onitis, did you have something you'd like to say?
I do have a question just so that we can communicate it appropriately. With regards to a treasurer's report, what would council's ask be of that?
I think that per code, the treasurer should be reporting us monthly or quarterly, the revenues, money on hand. I think there's
The
some other
cash on
things,
hand that we have are just our
Yeah.
cash position.
cash
If
position.
you
That's,
all would like to know the cash position
yeah.
and of the various accounts that the city has.
Now,
Correct.
in the code, it might be state code that's required or should be happening once a month or once a quarter.
Mr. Mayor, that the Code of Virginia
Get on.
allows you to formally request a report from the treasurer on as often a basis as you would like. Generally speaking, most local government governing bodies ask for a monthly report. And that's what's provided by the treasurer. I'm not sure whether you all have ever asked for a report or made it, a requirement that it be provided to you. So I don't know if the treasurer ever really knew that you wanted one. So as long as you're making the request, then that statutory provision kicks in.
And when the last treasurer, she came, I think quarterly.
I mean, you could do it quarterly, you could do it monthly, bi-monthly, however you want.
And the treasurer we have now has come and done that in the past, but I don't know that it was on a regular basis.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think that maybe a quarterly report would be more than sufficient, given that that would coincide then with, at the same time that you got your financial update from the head of finance.
Okay,
That would be a good opportunity to get the whole picture.
yeah.
Okay.
I think monthly might be a bit overkill.
So would we be better off to wait until March when we get the other financial report and do them both at the same time?
I would say so, but then, it would be a little out of, step with the quarters, then we would just know the quarter we would just pick up.
And I'm trying to get on his city, Chrome, and I'm having trouble getting connected. Could you take attendance and start minutes in case I don't get there?
Somebody's on another meeting.
Appreciate it. Thank you, dear.
Mr. What I'm getting at is I've gotten 4 or 5 calls from people in my district and their checks have not been cashed. And they want to know if their check got to City Hall, and they're just really concerned. And I'd like the treasurer to let us know when she thinks she'll get these envelopes opened up and these people will know if their money got there or didn't get there. That's the problem. That's growing. I mean, more and more where I work, they're coming in there and asking me. So I need to know what's going on so I can give them at least an answer.
Well, let's
I
go
will
ahead.
say that we are aware of that issue, and I will tread lightly on discussing too much right now, but we have spoken to our municipal advisors and council and others, and while we do recognize that we've all been making adaptations through COVID, we have all of us, whether it's Public Works, whether it's my office, whether it's you all as council, we're not doing anything that no other local government, state, federal has had to make adaptations through and work through. So I do realize that there's been a bit of a bottleneck. We're working on that. And I think that with reopening the building as of Monday for full staff, part of that holdup was our ever increasing case counts as far as the positivity rate and the lack of availability for vaccines to employees. With those new things coming to light, the city attorney and I did consult, and then that really did change our outlook on the Department of Labor and Industry ability to sort of make sure that we are in good faith fully complying. Am I correct, Mr. Popovich?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So to answer Lance's question, we can ask her to come next week. I don't know that it'll be productive next week, but I'm okay with that if that's what everybody wants to do.
I think March would be fine if you're going to meet with the quarterly budget review. You might as well do them both at the same time.
That's what I was saying, March.
Okay. Everybody else all right with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay. We have an appropriation resolution 2107, and it's regarding acceptance of refund from VDOT Street and Highway Maintenance Fund of $87,197.53.
Agenda.
As a result of asking them to pay for some roads that were theirs that they didn't have on their list.
That's it.
Consider appropriation resolution 2108 regarding the acceptance of additional funding for utility fund state reimbursement of water and wastewater project costs, Durant Road Bluff project in the amount of $67,533.53.
Agenda.
Agenda.
We've got a resolution 2109 regarding acceptance of grant funds and commitment of city funds to Maple Avenue Streetscape Phase 2 in the amount of $295,354.
Agenda.
Okay. Resolution 2110, request of the Allegheny County Sheriff for jail inmate housing, additional funding of $84,546.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would encourage and recommend to council that we move that item until the March agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
we have to consider extending the Community Service Board Performance Contract Extension Agreement until June the 30th of 2021.
Agenda.
Is there any new business, anything else besides these items? So we'll entertain a motion to go into a closed session. Is that where we're at?
Yes, sir. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Read
All
it.
right.
Hey,
I move the
I'm
council.
trying to use the silly city Chrome computer.
I move that council enter a closed meeting for one, consultation with legal counsel pertaining to probable litigation. Such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7. And two, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by counsel regarding specific legal matters or the provision of legal advice by such counsel related to the city's financial position pursuant to section 2.2-3711A8.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's take about 10 minutes and meet in closed session. Thomas, you gave us instructions, didn't you, buddy?
Now, we're using.
Take that long to get it together.
Right,
Yep, I'll get it up.
Do what, Kristen?
hold on.
Kelly has all staff.
A lot of background noise, but we're gonna be using the same link.
Alan, use your.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead,
I'm
Chris.
glad you knew what it was. I had no idea. Thomas, are we going to be using the same link or a new link?
You've got the link in your email.
Could you resend it to me, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
You already sent it to me.
I'll resend it to everybody.
I
So
mean,
you
is
don't
it
have-
a separate link than this one? I mean, do I just stop my video and mute?
Yep. So what you'll do is you'll end out of this meeting and go into the next one, and then we'll end out of that one and go back in the other one.
That's in that little packet you sent us of examples and all that, right?
Yes, sir. All you got to do is click right on that link, and it'll take you right to it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. See you in a
Resend
minute.
it to me, Thomas. I appreciate it.